Hello and welcome back to Conan Exiles. No gameplay in this episode, because what I want to do is run through this article, this news item that was published on the Funcom website. It was published a few days ago, July 20th, and it just provides some more details about the new Age of Sorcery update, in particular the new attributes, and it tells you a little bit more about the sorcery system that's in the game. So here is the article in question. Now the first thing to notice here is that these attributes are not accurate, unfortunately. They say strength, agility, vitality, grit, charisma and craftsmanship, and that was the proposed new scheme for attributes, but that's been changed again. So what it is the new attributes are strength, agility, vitality, authority, grit and expertise. And this is quite good because this maintains the SAVAGE acronym. So if you take the first letter of each of these attributes, they spell SAVAGE. So at the top you've got strength, which is your ability to deal damage with weapons, but also gives you a bit of extra carry capacity. Agility, it's all about precision and skill, and your ability to use deft weapons, which we're assuming are bows and daggers, and perhaps light one-handed swords and katanas and things of that type. Then you've got vitality, which is just health. Authority is a new one. This affects your thralls. The more authority you have, the easier it is to capture thralls, and the more damage your followers do. Grit is all about stamina and armour, and expertise is carry weight, but expertise is a building attribute, so as well as carry weight there are probably some elements of harvesting that have been improved in there. Yeah, so I'm guessing the more expertise you have, the more materials you can gather, and the more quickly you can do it. So anyway, returning to this attributes list, the game now has 60 level up points you can collect, and each of these attributes can be maxed out with 20 points. So you've got a choice. On one hand, on one extreme, you could max out 3 of these attributes completely, or if you wanted to go the other way, you could just put 10 points in each, though obviously I think most people are going to choose something in between. Something that's quite interesting is this reset attribute button here. Because at the moment, if you want to reset your attributes, you have to drink something called Yellow Lotus Potion, which I think you can craft at about level 30 or something like that. Now the problem with the Yellow Lotus Potion is that not only does it reset your attributes, it also resets all your feats. So once you've drunk the potion, you have to go back and relearn an awful lot of basic stuff, which can be a little bit annoying. So hopefully the reset attributes button will just work on the attributes. Then if you want to reset your feats, then presumably you just go back to the Yellow Lotus and use that. So if that's the way it works, that'll be quite a useful little innovation, I think. Aside from changing the attributes, they've also slightly changed the perk system, so you'll level up to various points, and you'll end up with perks like this on Vitality. The first perk is Fierce Vitality. Then at the second perk point, you've got a choice of 2 perks, in this case Resurgence and Fast Healer. Then the next perk here is Robust, and then at level up 20 you've got a choice of Last Stand and Glutton for Punishment, so it's not too complicated, it's just a bit of a variation on the existing system. However, if we go down to the really interesting bit, and that's the sorcery. So here we go, here's a guy doing some sorcery, and sorcery seems to have a rock-based indexing system. So when you first start sorcering, whatever you'd call it, you get 5 rocks appear, and each rock appears to be the head of like a sorcery tree. So that the first rock might be something to do with building, for example, because we've seen examples of spells where you can build ice bridges and lava walls. And the next rock might be to do with harvesting. Again, we've seen spells where you can sort of blast an area and harvest all the wood and stone. Then I'm guessing another stone would be something like weather effects, and another one might be about summoning creatures, and the last one might be about increasing your strength or making yourself invisible. And I'm guessing that when you start sorcery, each of these rocks is essentially empty. Then you have to find spells in the game, and you might find those randomly, or there might be rewards for defeating bosses or whatever, but gradually you can fill up each rock with its own sort of spell set. Now the important thing about sorcery is that your power as a sorcerer depends on your corruption. So every time you carry out a bit of sorcery, your corruption increases and your sorceress abilities increase at the same time, and you have to have quite a lot of corruption on you to be able to use some of the more advanced spells. So when you carry out a bit of sorcery, you'll gain corruption, as you would normally in the game if you were in a corrupted area, And like the game as it is now, you can only corrupt your health and stamina down to 50%. So to absolutely maximise your power as a sorcerer in the new game, you would have to also maximise your health and stamina, which would mean maxing out vitality and grit, essentially. So to be the best sorcerer you can be, you've got to allocate 40 of your points straight away, and you're left with 20 points to spread around the other attributes, which could be a bit limiting. So again, that's essentially how sorcery works. But the other side of sorcery is something that I'm referring to as soul-taking, essentially. And I had thought that taking souls and sorcery would be linked in some way, and they don't appear to be. They appear to be, well, they're both to do with magic, but they're parallel mechanics that don't really seem to have much to do with each other. So in soul-taking, you capture a thrall, lay them out on a nice bench like this, and you essentially murder them. And every time you sacrifice a thrall on this altar, you get a soul essence, and the soul essence acts like a corrupted level up point. So for example, if we go back to our attributes, I think how it works is that when you start acquiring souls, you get these little pluses appearing at the end of your attributes, and you can use that plus mark to allocate your soul points essentially. And interestingly, there's only 3 attributes you can actually corrupt. So there's strength at the top here, then you've got vitality, and down here you've got what was called charisma, but is now going to be called authority. So those are the only 3 attributes you can corrupt. And in the case of vitality, that's been corrupted completely, so the little plus mark has disappeared. We've not yet started with strength, but we're about halfway through with charisma. And all that corrupting an attribute does is just give you slightly different perks. So for example, for vitality, the first perk is called Grotesque Escarescence. You gain passive health regeneration that scales with your corrupted vitality. Then you have Twisted Flesh, then Petrified, and the last one is called Tainted Vessel. So I think that's fairly straightforward. Interestingly, the only way of getting rid of this corruption is to use the Reset Attributes button, because you can't get rid of it in the normal way. If you're talking about the Sorcerer's corruption, the corruption that you gain through practicing spells, then you can clear that with a Dancer or a Cleansing Brew, but corrupted attributes can only be cleared using the Reset button. So there we go, that appears to be the basics of the new magic system. I mean, the article is quite clear in most respects, but you get the impression that it was written by someone who doesn't have English as a first language, because some of the wording is quite eccentric here and there. So for example, if we look at this paragraph down here, it says corrupted perks are only discovered when you meet the requirements for them, which is fair enough, you can only corrupt a perk you've already got. Then the next sentence says, it's worth noting that corrupted perks are not about casting sorceries directly, which again makes sense, because the corruption you get through casting spells won't affect your attributes at all. But the last sentence says, if you corrupt your strength, for example, you'll gain a perk that increases your damage beyond the limits of regular strength, which is quite good. So there's a corrupted strength perk that, boosts your regular strength. But at the end it says, albeit at the cost of your maximum health and stamina, which I still can't figure out, frankly, because it looks like taking on that perk will affect your maximum health and stamina, which would in turn affect your ability to cast spells. So although I said sorcery and soul stealing appear to be parallel and unconnected, there do appear to be some ways in which one can affect the other. So there are quite a few little details here and there that I really haven't figured out. Anyhow, if you've got any thoughts, I'd be glad to hear them. In particular, if you think I've got anything wrong. And if so, please do feel free to tell me in the comments. Anyhow, I hope you found that useful. Just a very quick run through. But I think it's all looking quite interesting, quite fun. And the new attribute system looks quite sensible in the way they've designed it. Anyhow, I hope you found that interesting, stroke informative. Hope to see you again for the next video, and until I do see you, I shall say goodbye. Okay then, cheerio.